Hey, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another Season 7 League of Legends Champion Guide. Today I'm going to cover one of the new champions, AD carry Xayah, the Rebel.
Dance like your life depends on it.
So why exactly would you want to play Xayah besides the fact that she's new and interesting? Well, she's a champion with very strong wave clear due to her Q and passive going through a bunch of minions, and her E pulling the feathers back and doing even more damage. Because of all this AoE damage, if targets are lined up, she can do a lot of damage to a clumped up team, and therefore has some awesome teamfight. She's also a champion that's pretty damn strong in the mid and late game. She starts off a little weak early on, but she becomes a beast the later the game goes. Then of course there's her fantastic ultimate Featherstorm, which can be used to dodge everything. If timed properly, you can dodge all sorts of things from Zed ultimates to Lux ultimates and beyond. She's even one of those AD carries with a form of crowd control. As long as she can hit an enemy with at least 3 feathers with her E ability, it will root the target, which is pretty damn nice. Then finally there's her W ability, which does give her some bonus movement speed, which makes her pretty solid at kiting as well. Now Xayah, however, is pretty weak early on. She needs a bunch of time to set up her damage because she does need 8 feathers to have the highest damage potential. Without a lot of attack speed, it's going to take you a while. Now although you do have a movement speed increase from your W ability, you definitely lack mobility. You don't have anything like an arcane shift, so you have to position very wisely. All in all, she's a very fun and rewarding champion, and if you can use her kit properly, you can do a lot of damage and have a really solid defensive. For my masteries, I like to go 18 ferocity and 12 cunning, grabbing fervor of battle as my keystone mastery. This keystone is easily the best one on Xayah because your attack speed steroid on your W ability. You can stack the attack damage really quickly, and after you have a bunch of feathers with all of that bonus attack damage, you can pull the feathers back through them with your E ability and do a massive amount of damage because of all the AD that you currently have. For the rest of your masteries, you pretty much just focus on increasing your damage as much as possible and also getting a little bit of extra sustain. For your runes, you want to go for attack damage reds, armor yellows, magic resist blues, and attack speed quints. Your last hitting and harassing is going to be a lot stronger because of the attack damage and the attack speed, and you're still going to be a pretty durable champion with the armor and the magic resist. If you felt like you were in a pretty easy matchup, then you could always get some glyphs of attack speed as well, instead of full-on magic resist. It's a good rune setup to have, but unless you have a ton of rune pages, then I would just stick with this one here. For your first summoner spell, you'll want to make sure you pick up Flash. You're a champion that doesn't have a really good built-in escape ability, and it will be able to save you in all sorts of different situations. You're of course also going to have the option of flashing forward to finish off a kill if they are trying to escape from you. For your next summoner spell, you'll want to pick up Heal. It's easily the best summoner spell for the bot lane because it can save your life or even your lane partners. The movement speed on activation is also great because it can be used as an escape ability or of course a way to chase the enemy so you can actually keep up to them. These are easily the best summoner spells on an AD carry, and I would not recommend taking anything else. The first part of your passive is Clean Cuts, and this does some nice AoE damage in a line and also gets some feathers on the map. After casting an ability, Xayah's next 3 basic attacks strike all enemies along their path, dealing 100% damage to her main target and 50% pass-through damage to other enemies. At her maximum attack range, a feather will be left on the ground for 6 seconds. Xayah can also store up to 5 empowered attacks. So this is a really solid passive because it gets more feathers on the map and you can actually use your E ability. Our E ability does have our highest damage potential of our kit, so we have to get those feathers out there. Of course, since this does damage to everything in a line, it's a really good way to push minion waves as well. To use this ability, all you really have to do is use the other abilities in your kit and start auto-attacking. The second part of your passive is Lover's Leap, and you can only use it if partnered with Rakan. If either Xayah or Rakan is recalling, the other may move nearby and activate their own recall to join them. Both reach base at the time of which the initiator's recall ends. So this is okay, I suppose. It's mostly just gimmicky, but it can save you some recall time. He can activate his recall first, you could clean up a minion wave and join his recall and waste less time. Of course, this could happen vice versa. Your Q ability is Double Daggers, and this does some pretty decent damage in a line and also gets 2 feathers on the map. When activated, after a brief windup, Xayah hurls 2 feather blades in quick succession in the target direction and leaving 2 feathers on the ground at maximum range. The feather blades deal physical damage to all enemies they pass through, reduced to 50% against units beyond the first. So this here is a pretty solid ability because it does some nice damage in a line and of course makes it great for harassing and bringing down minion waves. This will also spawn 2 feathers instantly for you, which will allow you to use your E ability, but usually you're going to want to wait until you have a couple more feathers. But regardless, I like to take this ability at level 1 so I can actually poke the enemy champions and hit minions, and of course use my passive. Your W ability is Deadly Plumage, and this is a really solid attack speed steroid that also gives you movement speed. When activated, Xayah surrounds herself with a storm of feather blades for 4 seconds, granting her bonus attack speed, 20% increased damage on her attacks, and 30% bonus movement speed for 1.5 seconds whenever she attacks a champion. If Rakan is nearby, he will also gain deadly plumage, in turn increasing the damage of each of them to 40%. So this ability is obviously pretty damn strong because you get bonus attack speed, which is up to 50%, 20% increased damage, which is 40 when Rakan is around, and 30% bonus movement speed. To use this ability, basically whenever you're in a situation where you want to do as much damage as possible, which is usually, you want to activate the ability. Keep in mind though that without cooldown reduction, it's between a 16 and 12 second cooldown and only lasts 4 seconds. Also, if you are in a situation where you need to start kiting, this is a fantastic ability because 30% bonus movement speed is quite a lot. Your E ability is Blade Caller, and this does a ton of damage that also has the potential to root a target for 1 second. When activated, Xayah recalls all their feathers, dealing physical damage to the enemies they strike on the way towards her, increasing by 0.5% for every 1% of Xayah's critical strike chance, and minions will take 50% damage. Each feather to strike a target deals 10% less damage than the last, with a minimum of 10% damage. Enemies struck by at least 3 feathers are rooted for 1 second. So this here is an incredibly strong ability, and it is where Xayah gets most of her damage. As long as you can use your other abilities and your passive effectively, you will get a lot of feathers on the map, and this will do a ton of damage. This also scales with her critical strike chance, and of course since she is an AD carry we're going to have a bunch, so it's going to do even more damage. Your ultimate is Feather Storm, and it's great for offensive and defensive reasons. When activated, Xayah leaps into the air, briefly becoming untargetable, but still able to move. After a short delay, she unleashes a volley of feather blades forward in a cone, dealing physical damage to all enemies struck and leaving a line of 5 feathers at the end of Feather Storm's maximum range. So this is a really solid ability because it has a 100% bonus AD ratio and leaves 5 feathers, which works great with your E ability. The fact that you briefly become untargetable also makes it a very solid defensive. That's pretty much how I'll usually use the ability. If there's stuff like Zed or Lux on the map, I'll make sure I have this ability to dodge their ultimates. But regardless, it's still really solid offensively because it has a 100% bonus AD ratio, and 5 feathers can do a lot of damage. For my skill order, I first start by putting a point in my ultimate whenever I can at 6, 11, and 16. Then I start maxing my E ability first. This definitely has the highest potential in the lane phase in team fights because the damage is not reduced based on targets hit, whereas the Q is. We still want to make sure we take our Q at level 1 however, so we can actually poke the enemy champions and get feathers on the map. Other than that, we want to save the Q ability for last because our W's attack speed is way too solid to pass up. Having an extra 50% attack speed in a fight is kind of a big deal. For our normal combo, we first want to poke the enemy champion with our Q ability. Then we'll want to hit them at least 2 times with our basic attacks, and then activate our W's attack speed. Then auto-attack them until you have a bunch of feathers and pull them back through the enemy champion with your E ability. Once you have your ultimate, if you want to use it offensively, you can start by hitting the enemy champion with it to get 5 feathers and do a nice chunk of damage. Then hit the enemy champion with your Q ability and an auto attack and instantly pull the feathers back through with your E ability. At this point you can activate your W ability and start auto attacking the enemy champion, and as soon as your E comes off cooldown, use it again. During the lane phase, you want to try to poke the enemy champion as much as you can with your double daggers and clean cuts. After you manage to set up a bunch of feathers, you can then use your Blade Caller to pull them back through the enemy and do a big chunk of damage. As long as you also have at least 3 feathers, it will also root the target and give you some really good kill pressure. Once you have your Feather Storm, you'll have even more kill potential or a really solid defensive depending how you use it. You can combo it quickly to get 8 feathers and have a high damage Blade Caller pretty much instantly, or you can use it to dodge really strong abilities like Zed or Lux's ultimate. In teamfights, you want to try to set up your feathers so you can pull them through some squishy targets and deal a bunch of damage if it is possible. Make sure, however, that you follow the golden rule of attacking what is near you as an AD carry. You do not want to get caught out in the middle of a fight, or you're going to get insta-gibbed. I usually like to use my Feather Storm as mainly a defensive ability. Make sure you identify who the biggest threat on the map is and use it to dodge the majority of their damage if that is possible. You'll then finally want to use your Deadly Plumage to kite. That increased movement speed can be great to escape from champions that are trying to get on top of you. Now let's look at a couple hard matchups, and first up is Caitlyn. She's going to be a pain in the ass for you because of her really long attack range and high damage. Against her, you're going to have to play more passively because you're not the strongest early game champion and you do need time to build up your feathers, and with her high range, she can easily walk away from them. Wait until you start scaling up and then go for engagements. Next we have Draven, who's another big time lane bully. Yet again, you need time early on to set up your feathers, and he's not going to give you that time. He's usually going to be running at you with your spinning axes, and you're going to be taking a lot of damage before you can even use your E ability. Be very, very careful and wait until you have a lot of attack speed so you can easily get those feathers and then burst him down. Last, of course, is the king of the early game, Lucian. In quick engagements early on, he's going to do a massive amount of damage, and you're going to do pretty much nothing. You do, however, outscale him pretty damn hard, so wait until the mid and the late game where you will be a better champion. Even if he does decide to shove you under tower, you have so much wave clear that it's not really going to matter, so you don't have to worry about that too much. Now let's finish this off with the item build, which starts with a Doran's Blade, Health Potion, and a Warding Totem. For your core build, you have two different options, and the first one is the Blade of the Ruined King, Ruinans, and Phantom Dancer. This core build will have 60% crit and an absolute ton of attack speed. Of course, you're also going to have some lifesteal early on, which will be fantastic, and that added damage from the Blade of the Ruined King is great against tanky lineups. Now you could instead go for a crit and cooldown oriented core build and get the Essence Reaver, Phantom Dancer, and an Infinity Edge. You will have slightly more crit chance with 70%, increased crit damage, and some decent attack speed as well, but nowhere near as much. You will, however, have extra mana sustain and 30% cooldown reduction, which is also fantastic. Both of them are really strong core builds. I'll usually go for Blade of the Ruined King because of how strong it is right now, but Essence Reaver crit build is also really solid. For your boot options, you have Berserker Greaves, which are usually the ones I'll pick up because of the attack speed, or Ninja Tabbies, which are also great if you're against a high AD team. For the item build, if you didn't already have one, then you could get Infinity Edge. If you've taken the first core build, this will bring your crit chance up to 80%, which is more than the second core build. Of course, your damage will also skyrocket with that increased critical damage. If you need some armor penetration, then you could get either the LDR or the Mortal Reminder. I'll usually go for the LDR whenever I can, but if there is champions that abuse healing, then you definitely want the Mortal Reminder. Next we have the Mercurial Scimitar, which is fantastic against teams with a lot of CC. Pick this thing up if you're going to need to break out of things like Malzahar's ultimate. You could then also get the Bloodthirster, which is fantastic for its lifesteal as well, and it really has a lot of attack damage and a great defensive shield. If you're then looking for even more kite potential, you could get the Frozen Mallet. This is a pretty decent item, but I don't pick it up too much myself, but definitely worth considering. And then, as always, the Guardian Angel, fantastic late game item to come back to life so you can do even more damage. For the first full build, I take that first core, add the Berserker Greaves, and then Infinity Edge, and LDR. You'll have an absolute ton of attack speed, some lifesteal, 80% crit chance, increased critical damage, and that armor penetration from the LDR. You'll do a massive amount of damage, and this will destroy tanky teams. For the second full build, we'll take that second core, get Berserker Greaves yet again, and then a Bloodthirster and LDR. This definitely has the potential to do more damage because you do have 30% CDR, but you are lacking attack speed, however your attacks will hit really hard. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is everything I've got for AD carry Xayah. Don't forget to check out the video description below for a link to all my social medias. I stream every night but Tuesday at 7 PM Eastern now, and of course that link is down there. As is my Discord server and my second YouTube channel. Also, if you guys did enjoy the video, please make sure you like and subscribe. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I will see you in the next one. Take it easy, have a good day, and peace.
Going